The critical moment in General Milley's testimony yesterday was when Senator Tom Cotton asked him, "Why don't you resign?" And General Milley gave an extremely bizarre answer, which I'm going to get to in a moment. But let me start by talking about Milley, because I always have to laugh when I see this guy. I mean, he's such a costume peacock. He's such a pompous, full of himself type of guy. First of all, just start out with his ridiculous outfit. What are we looking at? Some Soviet general? He's got like 400 medals. And how long does it take for this guy to get dressed? I mean, imagine if I were to dress like Milley. Honey, where are my medals? Where am I? Wait. I think I'm missing a ribbon. I got that one for doing 10 push-ups at West Point with one hand. So anyway, you got this Milley character. And he's asked by Cotton kind of straightforwardly, hey, listen, all these disasters, one on top of the other, don't you think you should resign? Milley goes, I'm not going to resign because he gives two reasons. First, let's go through them. One, my dad didn't resign at Iwo Jima. What? Wait a minute. My problem with this analogy is the word because. What does his dad's role at Iwo Jima have to do with him today? Is he basically saying the bravery of the father excuses the incompetence of the son? What's the connection between these two things? The other thing that Milley says, even more bizarre, he goes, I'm not going to resign because of those 13 boys who died in Afghanistan. They didn't resign. He goes, quote, I'm not going to turn my back on them. Wait a minute. You did turn your back on them. You left them behind. You left them behind and they got killed. And they got killed because you, acting in cohort with others, not alone, but you closed the Bagram Air Force Base. You didn't make provision to get all these people out. You played a role through negligence in their deaths. And are you now pretending like you're not going to turn your back on them? They're dead in part because of you. This is the fact of the matter. I'm not being unduly harsh. I'm actually only being duly harsh. Now, Milley basically confirmed his call with General Lee of China. And as I'm listening to this, now, of course, Milley tried to cover it up. He's like, I know Trump wasn't going to attack China. I know that. And he then says, Milley does, so I was merely relaying to General Lee what I knew to be Trump's intentions. Now, first of all, Trump did not, in fact, okay this. Trump didn't tell him, okay, you know what, go ahead and call General Lee. And I'm thinking as I'm listening to this,
I am certain that President Trump did not intend to attack the Chinese. And it is my directed responsibility, and it was my directed responsibility by the Secretary to convey that intent to the Chinese. My task at that time was to de-escalate. My message again was consistent. Stay calm, steady, and de-escalate. We are not going to attack you.
I'm thinking, it's, I guess, very nice of General Milley to offer to warn General Lee in case Trump orders an attack. But would Lee do the same for him? Would General Lee, the head of the People's Army of China, would he be so nice as to warn Milley in case the Chinese premier, Xi Jinping, ordered an attack on America? I think we know the answer to that one. Now, one of the important facts that came out in the testimony is that all these generals, General McKenzie, who is the commander of U.S. Central Command, Scott Miller, who didn't testify, but they referred to his views, and General Milley all told Biden, all relayed to Biden that the United States cannot withdraw in this way. Biden not only ignored them, but lied about it. Because when Biden was asked by George Stephanopoulos, this is now back in August, I believe, yes, he was asked, didn't people advise you not to do it this way? And Biden goes, no. Quote, no one said that to me that I can recall. Now, we have to make some allowances for that I can recall. Biden could be saying basically, my neurons are not firing at full blast, and so I maybe forgot the whole thing, which is even scarier because we have a president sitting in the saddle who really doesn't know what's going to, doesn't remember what was said to him like yesterday. I now want to turn, however briefly, to the case of Marine Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller. I discussed this with Rand Paul yesterday in our interview. This is a guy who's been thrown in the slammer, in the brig. Why? Because he publicly questioned the U.S. failure in Afghanistan. Now, to excuse this guy a little bit, it is, he did this right after the Marines got killed. He did it right after U.S. officers, 13 of them died, unnecessary deaths, I think we can all agree. So he was actually reflecting public frustration. Now, he was ordered by the military not to keep posting on social media. So he did ignore that, and I'm not going to quite excuse that. I also think that his statement that he was going to personally make sure that people like Mackenzie were held accountable and prosecuted was over the top. He shouldn't have done that. Now, that being said, if you ask what was Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller's offense, well, I guess it is that he violated the chain of command. The military is not a democracy. It is a structure in which you have to follow orders and obey authority. Now, this guy didn't disobey a direct order, but he did actually disobey a demand that he not post on social media. He did violate the chain of command, but so did Milley. Because if you listen to what Milley said, even though Milley tried to cover his tracks, and of course he's probably more clever than Stuart Scheller in doing this, what Milley was basically saying is, listen, I went around Trump, but I was still following procedures. Milley was implying that what he did was routine. But if you can believe anything in the Bob Woodward book, Milley was very concerned about Trump being out of control. And Milley has repeatedly said that, and he's even said that in other books. He said that in other sources. So Milley's actions are consistent with his behavior, that he sort of has to work around Trump. That's why the backdoor call to Pelosi. Milley, by the way, also admitted he's been having interviews with Bob Woodward, with Washington Post reporters, writing a book. So in other words, this guy is running down Trump behind Trump's back. He's not exactly playing the good boy, following the rules of authority. This is a guy who is disloyal, he's partisan, he's ideological. So in a sense, he's doing on a much larger scale what Marine Lieutenant Stuart Scheller is doing on a much more minor scale. We can live with a Marine officer who speaks his mind out of turn, but what we can't live with are generals who are colluding with foreign adversaries, who are essentially usurping the chain of command and then pretending, oh, what, me, what? No, this Milley character, I think, has not only got a disconnected mind, a scrambled brain, but at some level, he's also quite dangerous.